Welcome to Adults Only Comedy Berlin. Today we have Tristan Barber.
Hello.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm in your house, and
You are,
very
yeah.
grateful. We're in Brussels. You do comedy, you run a couple of shows in Brussels, right?
I sure do. So I co-run one show called Insecure et Dangereux. Mm-hmm. We do...
Did you think is that your name that you...
No, it goes back from 2018. I wasn't originally... So it was back in 2018 the show was formed. Mm-hmm. And when it was formed, basically there was some meeting of some guy posted on a Facebook group saying, I want to start a comedy show. A friend tagged me in it. I showed up to it. I had never done comedy before. I didn't realize that it was to organize a comedy show.
Okay.
So I showed up to the initial meeting. I sat around while people talked about starting a comedy show, and then I left.
Okay.
And they started the show, started a little Facebook group, and somewhere I think in the chat somebody said Insecure et Dangereux, because of course Brussels is a pretty French-speaking city.
Mm-hmm. Like it's one of the most kind of vulnerable names I've ever seen for a comedy show. I really like it.
Yeah, and so that's sort of where the origins of the name came from. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it was also where I performed for the first time, because a few months after this I went away, and it took me about 5 months to get to the point where I was like, you know what, if I go up on stage and I suck, that's fine, because it's the first time I've done it.
Yes.
Now I don't have that excuse, but...
But we're always learning, and it's always different, a different set of atmospheric, circumstances. So it's like, it's not, like, you can still, like, everyone still bombs, no matter how experienced
Oh, totally.
they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the beauty of it. So it's Insecure and Dangereux, and then the other one is Countdown, right?
Yeah, Countdown Comedy Club.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so that one's been running since 2021. Mm-hmm. That's a weekly open mic. Mm-hmm. So first when Insecure started, it was every 2 weeks on Wednesday nights in this bar. It was a very punk rock kind of vibe, because it was in a basement, but there were about 6 seats there, so everybody had to stand.
Oh, cool.
And it was a sort of, I would say it was the first English grassroots comedy show, in the sense that it was really just people from Brussels living there. It wasn't a big professional show. It was just starting in this basement. Mm-hmm. And within a few months, it was just, every show was packed.
I love it. I love that.
Yeah, and since then, a year later, started doing that big show at Bassin, the one that you played last night, and now it's quite a well-known show in the city. Very fun to play. Big room,
huge room. Like the capacity is much more than what. Like you could cram more people in there.
Yeah, we couldn't last year because they changed the seating arrangements around. But now I think we could definitely fit some more now that they've changed the seating arrangement around.
It's impressively like a lofty, big ceiling, deep. Very I loved the room. I loved the room, and like as high as the ceiling is and as light as it is,
yes,
the lighting's actually quite well. Like it's good lighting. The sound was good. Yeah, I was really like a fucking lovely space to perform.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear that, because I always tell people it's a nice room, but I'm like, I probably should just let the proof be in the pudding, as they say.
Yeah. Although it is like, you do walk into a room that's got a big high ceiling, and you go, oof, this might get a bit tough, like whether or not the laughter's actually going to just dissipate immediately, or...
Yeah, it can happen.
It can happen, but like there's a room in Berlin where it looks like the perfect comedy room, like it's basement, low ceiling, but somehow the ceiling... It's weird, but somehow the ceiling swallows the laughter. Uh-huh. Like it doesn't bounce it back. It's like it sucks it out, which is so weird. Like I've had really good shows there, but it's still like it'll laugh, and then it's just like it's a bizarre acoustic setup. Whereas I felt like last night, Obesan, it's like you could really like the acoustics were good for laughter.
You can feel the laughter.
Yeah,
absolutely. And you can feel it when you get a lack of laughter. I remember because when I was first starting out, I performed there very early on, and I just remember being on stage and being like, all right, this is what it feels like in a big room when people aren't laughing too much. Oh, yeah. They were curious. They were very curious. They were paying attention, but yeah.
Oh man, it's tough. It's tough, but
yeah, I don't always bomb. It's been like 2 minutes into the podcast. I'm like, yeah, I suck.
No, you don't suck. No, but like it's really. But the thing is, you've maybe it's fresh in your mind because you've just taken a break, so you're a bit like getting back into it. That's that thing.
No, I guess it's also just thinking about those early days of the comedy as well. Mm-hmm. Just because of talking about Insecure et Dangereux, and it's like. thinking about those early days and really just having no idea. The first time I emceed, I remember it was like, I opened up with some weird skit pretending that the audience wasn't there.
Oh God, that sounds really funny.
It was, it's funny in a cringy sort of way.
Yeah, I was
thinking
gonna
about
say cringe, but I'm like, that's not my place to say that. That
No,
sounds-
it was, absolutely. I remember as I was doing it feeling bad for the audience.
Oh, those moments of like,
Yeah.
why am I doing this to them and myself? Why?
Yeah.
Why? This felt like a good idea. This is bad. I remember my first hosting gig. Like I did lots of guest hosting before I did my own show, but it's so different when you do your own show and you're all alone out there and you're making all the decisions that are bad and you're doing all the, and like, yeah, like I guest hosted maybe 10 shows before I started my own, but then when you're fully in charge and you're like opening the show and then you got to carry it across both halves, it was just, I remember just being like, "Ooh, this is. I've got so much work to do."
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely.
And
it's
just
a roller coaster.
Oh, right. And particularly with crowd work, I think the first things with crowd work is just like realizing quite quickly, okay, I really need to check in with myself and feel confident that my opinions and my feelings and my jokes are all grounded in places of non-discrimination and love, and that like I've just got to trust that everything that I say and I think is not in any way like actually offensive. Like it might be laughing at people, but I actually don't hold anything that's like that could hurt people in my heart, you know what I mean? And so trusting that, so then being able to be mean instead of just being nice to fucking everyone, you know, like that took a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because I guess it maybe also comes from being Canadian and having this sort of place where I feel like people say people are very nice from Canada, and that is true to an extent, but once you get to know people, I would describe it more as a passive-aggressive place, or a place where it can just be very hard to tell what's going on. Because people don't always speak about their emotions in the direct sense of like, oh, somebody did something that kind of slighted me, and you'd rather, oh, no, it's okay, but it's not okay.
Yeah.
Maybe something upsets you or bothers you, and so for me as well, and I think just even being in the professional world for a while and trying to be very much like a yes man, like, yes, okay, even when I didn't like something.
Yeah.
So the process of going through that, and then as an MC, doing crowd work, realizing I don't like what that person just said, and that's okay.
Yeah.
There's like a power in that, and that's fun.
Yes.
It creates some kind of conflict, and there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean you're insulting somebody. You might just have a different opinion from somebody about something.
Yeah, and you can play with that, and there is funny in that. And yeah, it's funny, the Canadian thing. Like I've met. I think you're a lovely person, and your girlfriend is so fucking lovely.
She's pretty cool too.
She's really cool, and it's not just because you're letting me stay. But Australians are probably, of all the like native English speakers, Australians are the most direct in saying things as that. Like there's like a friendliness, but we're a lot more direct. Whereas like the Brits will just like go around in circles.
Yeah.
They can still be more kind of emotionally authentic than I would say North American English speakers. So both Canadians and Americans or US citizens, it can be like they think that I'm a fucking asshole from the start. Like, as in if I'm bantering in the way I will, like that's way too aggressive for the culture there. And also just like often connecting with US citizens particularly, I'm just not sure where the fuck they stand on an authentic emotional level. Like,
often me too. It's one of my struggles when I go back home to Canada.
Yeah, right?
I sometimes feel completely and totally lost in this world if like, oh, did I just say something that upset somebody because I was making a light joke, but that was meant as a joke.
Yeah.
I didn't, or it was just like, I think I just looking from somebody's face, like a little twitch that I see, I'm like, oh no, I did. So I sometimes feel really lost when I come home too.
Yeah, fuck, yeah.
Yeah. But also with with Brits, I remember when British comedian here in Brussels at some point, I suggested like a tag for him on a joke. Which it was unsolicited, so my bad. I'm one of those guys.
You're allowed to throw a tag at someone.
But he was like, interesting, food for thought. I'll consider it. And I was like, wow, he just said four, like he said no in four different ways.
Yeah.
Which was very impressive, like in such a short amount of time.
That is a very great little example to demonstrate how the English will be direct, at least. Like
Yes.
in way, like all of those are saying, I'm like nah, mate.
Yeah. It's different versions of fuck off.
Yeah, totally. But the thing is, they'll sort of they soften it by going around the problem, like circling it,
Yes.
and like multiple times, as opposed to I feel like in the US they'd be like, oh yeah, that's great, thanks, and it's like no hint of sarcasm either. Like I feel like US people and maybe I can't speak for Canadians as much, but I also
The smile you gave while you said that was actually exactly that. We're also trained to be like customer service machines in North America.
Yes.
And it's so funny because when I go into restaurants now and I see 18, 19-year-olds, like I see myself as well in those moments where I just see like the server is too awkward to respond because they don't know how to deal with anything other than just being like really positive about something. And it's like, yo, you don't have to love everything I say. If you just rolled your eyes at me right now, I'd probably find that quite funny. Like my family, we are being idiots right now. My brother and I are flipping creamers, and I'm 35 and he's 37. Like it's all right if you just walked up and said, "Grow up, kids."
Yeah, you can be real with me. Like,
exactly.
I wonder how much the North American kind of, I wouldn't call it insincerity, but almost like a superficiality of emotional expression. Let's say that even sounds a bit mean, but
no, but I think it's quite accurate.
Yeah, I wonder, but where does it come from? Like I'm like
the Brits.
Like it's a reaction to it's an overcorrection to the British way or to the.
I think it's in a lot of ways it is kind of similar to the British. I think where you sometimes disguise your intentions, and sometimes I wonder if people really know what they want. But maybe I say this because for years I didn't know what I wanted. Like I didn't know how to say yes or no. Back when I was in university, I dated this girl for 4 years. She's Canadian, but like her family's from Vietnam.
Okay, yeah.
And so
the Vietnamese are extremely direct.
and I remember like multiple moments when her mom would like ask me if I wanted to do something, and I'd be like, well, we could do this. And I remember her just being like, do you want to do it or not? And the truth was, I remember like getting those questions for years and just being like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to do it.
So how much of it is that we've used language as a way to kind of so like Anglos have used language as a way to distract from really checking in and like checking in with your feelings even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting question. I think it's tough because with that kind of thing, there's so much about, well, I just don't want to upset people around me.
Yes.
It's this sort of politeness, but it's like a politeness that eats away at you and can be very
very like
disconcerting.
Disconcerting, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But my sort of sub theory around not sub theory, but it's like a thing around Canadians. It's like I started with saying that you and your girlfriend are really fucking lovely, and I mean that with true sincerity.
But that always comes with a but. Yeah.
But and I've just sort of gotten to know a whole run of Canadians that are actually bitchy, mean motherfuckers. And it's almost like because Canada has this reputation of being so nice, that there's like that you guys have been kind of, not you, but like the Canadians have been taking advantage of that and are actually like mean little bitches.
I have it so easy in Europe. Like I'm exotic in Europe.
Really?
Yeah, which is great
I'm also,
for me.
As a Kiwi, when I identify more as a Kiwi than an Aussie, I am very exotic. Like I have immigration, like customs, immigration officers getting excited by my passport because they genuinely haven't seen one before. They're like, oh, like if I'm going through a smallish airport, they'll be like,
nice.
oh wow, like they just haven't seen a New Zealand passport before.
Yeah, but it is very funny. But I mean, when you look, Canada's also like a brutally, like it's a country that has committed genocide against its own population.
Same as Australia.
Yeah, our favorite sport is ice hockey, which is absolutely brutal. And like it's a really, really, I love the sport. I love playing it. I love watching it and everything, but it is
What's toxic about it? Because I don't know shit about ice hockey. I just know that they ram into each other and like the game, like the fighting is kind of encouraged.
Yeah, I mean, the fighting is actually reduced a bit in the last few years.
Okay.
That's right. It's probably taken 10 minutes for a Canadian to start talking about hockey on a podcast. It's like, haha, I've gotten in.
I think I've had one other. I think I had Dion on my podcast.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't. Maybe I've had another. I had Scott Reynolds on my podcast. Like I'm sure I've had like other Canadians, but yeah, no, I think you're the first one to talk about ice hockey. So
nice.
you win.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just I think. It's just this very sort of toxic masculine culture.
Okay.
And a lot of things that are appreciated in hockey are often like, well, that player just had his leg bent backwards and he's back on the ice 20 minutes later.
Shit.
Which, of course, is a big contrast to football, soccer, where, you know, Cristiano Ronaldo gets flicked in the shoulder and he's flying halfway across the field and writhing around on the ground. And nobody likes that. No. But at the same time, there is a bit of a toxic culture in hockey, which is like tough it out. But like some people are in real physical pain. There's also like a pretty huge amount of abuse that goes on that level.
Oh yeah.
If you're curious, there's a podcast recently released about a lot of different allegations regarding, rape, racism.
Are we talking like within the teams, or are we talking about like individual players in their lives?
It can be
as in like, are they raping each other, or is this like players who go out and rape, like outside? Like how many? I think I need to say rape a few more times. Yeah. How are they raping?
So it's a great question. Allow me to answer that for you. I quit hockey when I was like 11, and honestly, like it made me sad for years because I still love to play, but I never got that good because I quit at 11 years old. But then when I started to hear stories about hockey in people's later years in high school and this sort of thing, it's all different kinds of stuff. Back in, I can't remember exactly what year it was, but there are some pretty recent allegations about a junior hockey team gang raping a woman. And this is not the first time this allegation has happened, like with hockey teams. And I was back home a while ago, and we were just sitting around having a chat with some comedians after a show at some point, and the guy's like, he said something about grabbing each other's asses. And he's like, yeah, but it wasn't sexual because it was hockey. And I'm like, wasn't it though? And he's like, touche.
Okay.
So I think there's a lot of different levels to it, but because I quit pretty early, it's not like I saw much when I was young. I didn't, I wasn't super aware of it, but yeah, looking on sort of a wider lens.
Yeah, stepping back.
That said, I still love to watch hockey. So
no, it doesn't make you a rapist.
I'm really glad to hear that. Phew. Had me sweating there for a minute.
I officially clear your name. You're can watch hockey, not a rapist. But like, I suppose that I'm ignorant when it comes to sporting cultures, but that kind of toxic masculinity seems to maybe be in a lot of different sporting cultures, I guess.
It's certainly not the only one.
Yeah.
I can't really speak to a lot of other sports because I don't pay as much attention to them, but for sure it's there. Like I'm absolutely sure the sort of masculine side of things, people being forced to play through injuries, just sort of this sort of man up mentality. Which is very often quite toxic and damaging to young men and boys who are taught that, you can't say anything or you can't speak about talking about emotions and people not being able to express their emotions and feelings. These are the kinds of ways that they come about, I think.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Super damaging for all involved. Fuck. Okay, so you mentioned dating a little bit. I'm curious because I didn't have Brussels on my radar at all as being a city that I'd be like, oh, this is cool. And I'm shocked. Not shocked, but just like no one had talked about how cool Brussels is. And so I'm just so I was curious about, you mentioned your dating life before, but you moved here with your partner, right?
No, I initially moved in 2014, and we weren't together back then. Yeah. So we got together, we had kind of dated back in Canada before that.
Okay.
But then I was like a few years later that I was single and I was back in Canada, and we met up, and it was very quickly like, how you doing? It was very clear, but it was a bit more, it was very clear that things were going. So she moved over a few years later. So yeah, I was single for a while in Brussels. I'd say like it's
What's the sexiest way to say Brussels? Is it Bruxelles? How do you say that? What are the other
doesn't sound
names?
very sexy when
no,
you say it
no,
like
I don't
that.
know how to say it. What are the other names for it? Because everything's got 3 names, right?
I don't
Or 2
know.
names,
I'm a bit partial to the train way of saying it, like the train Flemish. Dames en heren, de volgende halt is Brussel.
Brussels? Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Dames en heren, de volgende halt is Brussel Noord.
That's the best.
I like that one.
Yeah.
I don't know if sexiest is the right word for that, but
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm not sure about sexy.
Yeah.
But yeah. And
I don't know.
what's the Flemish name for Brussels?
Brussel.
Oh, that's the Flemish name?
It's just like in
Brussel?
English, but without the S on the end.
Okay, Brussels. And then the
So
French?
for like the French, it's Bruxelles. Bruxelles.
Yes,
But the way I
Bruxelles.
pronounced it, if you're like from Bruxelles, I probably just said it wrong because French say it like Bruxelles with the X there,
Bruxelles,
whereas people from Brussels tend to say it more like Bruxelles.
Bruxelles.
So it has less of the X sound to it.
Less of the...
Apparently, I speak French and I've never noticed it, but people tell me that's what it is, so I believe them.
Okay,
I'm not
they
naturally,
care.
yeah.
You don't. Like,
I'm just not naturally gifted with languages. I speak them because I have to. You know,
Yeah.
and I like it, but it's not my gift. It's just,
okay.
yeah.
You were saying the other night that you needed to be forced into it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
But yeah, the dating and like, so how is dating and like, what's the reputation that the city has for dating?
judging by all of the people that come on the comedy shows and talk about Tinder, it seems pretty rough these days.
It seems a bit rough.
It seems pretty rough worldwide, but
Yeah, I think the big issue is that with the advent of and proliferation of dating apps, people have an inflated expectation of success in dating because all of a sudden you can do it from any location. You can be swiping, you can meet, and so there's this heightened. Expectation that I can meet people easily, and it's like no, it's still just as hard. You've just got some different avenues that you can take advantage of. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think when I was dating, it was fun. Like, it's a very sociable city.
Yeah, it seems social, right?
Very
Like great little
outgoing,
bars.
extroverted. It's like, I mean, it's the home of the European Union, so people come from all over and move here. NATO, just really people from all over the world, really from everywhere that come and move here. So it makes for a very sociable and outgoing kind of city. I think a lot of the time what people find is if they're looking for something a bit more serious, it can be tough because,
Okay.
you might start dating somebody and then 6 months later their internship ends. I mean,
Okay.
that was when I was younger anyways. Or, people move here for a few years and then realize like, I need to go back to Spain because I'm tired of this, the weather or whatever, and
Okay.
that kind of thing.
So it's a bit transient.
Yeah, it's a very transient city.
Okay, it's interesting.
Like the fact that
Maybe that's why I like it. I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel the change in the air. It's always moving.
you can escape if you ever need. Yeah, escape is not too far away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are quite a few people like me that have been around for many years, but a lot of people kind of come and go. So it's very transient and it moves a lot. So I think that can make the dating scene fun, but also if you're looking for something serious, tricky, it can be tough.
Yeah.
Because you never know, what's going to happen.
Yeah, right. But I wonder how much that is for, like, I wonder how much when we talk about, like, I feel like in Australia, there's a limit to the transience that can exist because once you're there, it's very hard to leave flight-wise. Like, it's just like, to get out of Australia, it's expensive. Like, that's why when you meet Australians, they're usually doing the 3-month trip in Europe and, and so once they leave, they do a big stint, but then they go back. And then they're fucking there. And for them to do another European holiday, they have to be doing pretty well and have no dependents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's a big island, far from everything. Also, expensive. So even to probably afford a ticket off, you gotta
just to exist
to
is
leave.
expensive. However, wages are much higher. But just the time that you need to take to leave, to get to Europe. So I think I bring that up because in contrast, like in Europe, the proximity to all the other cities and cultures, and you're within the EU as well. What the EU does is means that you can quite easily, anyone that's got like a work permit or residency in any city can work everywhere else.
Yes.
It's like Europe has become a lot more maybe transient. Like you can flit about through Europe, work and live very easily.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I came over before Brexit happened, so I was able to come over on like a European Union passport.
Nice.
Yeah, just really got the lottery with my like my
With your
dad being born in
heritage.
the UK. Yeah, exactly.
And you did it in time to be able to.
Yeah, and I moved over before, years before Brexit, so I
Yeah.
was able to go down. Like I did a program down in Spain. I was in Austria for a while.
Yeah.
Trying to get my Belgian citizenship now. We'll see in the
Yeah.
next few months.
I'm working on my German actually. Like I'm gonna get German
Yeah.
citizenship.
Yeah. And once you have that, it does make it so much easier. I mean, I have a friend. He was waiting to get his Belgian citizenship. He worked here for 5 years, got his Belgian citizenship, and I would say less than 6 months later, him and his wife had moved to Spain.
Hey, that's amazing.
And I remember him telling me beforehand, and I was like, "Yeah, man. I mean, why not?
Why not,
He can
dude?
go and live in Barcelona, Barcelona, like go and live it up over there.
It just
That's
sounds
great.
like a happier lifestyle, you know? Like
Yeah.
I don't discount Spain as an option for where I'll move to once I'm kind of like retired. Like not that I'm ever going to stop doing comedy, but like once I get to the point where, you know, like hopefully the kid that I have is like doing its own thing, and once I'm sort of like the place that I'd like to live, like get sick and die in is, you know, I think Spain would be good.
Spain is amazing. I lived in Valencia for 6 months.
Oh, yeah?
Just what a cool city.
Cool. I hear really cool things about Valencia. Actually.
I should stop telling people. Apparently, it's becoming more popular, but you know, it's too late now. I think
Yeah.
the whole region is gorgeous. The city itself is like, it's just really nice. They have the Turia, which is like a dried up riverbed.
Okay.
So you can go in there. There's like, it's a super active city. So always like during the summer, fall, winter, even like people are working out in the Turia. You can go for long walks on there.
They've
Park.
got
And
some
it's
crazy festival, I know. Were you there for the
Las
festival?
Fallas.
Where they burn these effigies and these big sculptures?
Yeah.
Like,
no, so I've never been to Las Fallas.
Okay.
Because I was there from like June till December. I still have to go, but I think there was a holdover from that event. That it wasn't able to happen, and they had I don't even know how to describe it. They were just firewalkers basically. So people with sort of fire repellent gear on, kind of, and they had wheels that were just lit up like in flame, and they were just basically like flames going absolutely everywhere. This little just nice little I don't know, it's not circus. What do you call it when people are walking around?
parade.
Parade. That's the word. I'm a native English speaker. I'm good at this.
Don't worry. I feel
But yeah,
you,
it was
I feel you.
it was insane because I remember just like it's one of those cultural contrasts where I was like, yeah, in Canada, I don't think they'd allow this to happen at all, and they definitely wouldn't let us be 2 meters from these people because the flames were kind of like shooting out. I was like, oh my god, this is insane.
I
It
love
was
Europe
very
for
cool.
that, like the level
Yeah.
of danger that, like fireworks in
Third degree
Berlin.
burns, baby.
Yeah,
Woo!
it's just like you'll figure it out. We can do this. You take your own precautions. You know, it's not up to us to make rules about
Yeah.
this. In Australia, we wouldn't be able to do it. I'd say Portugal also wouldn't do it either because of chance of bushfires.
Yeah, you'd think
I
in
would
Spain
assume.
they'd be a bit worried as well, but nope, they love their fireworks.
Yeah, actually, they have had bushfires in Spain.
Sure,
no?
they must. It's a pretty dry
must.
place.
Yeah.
But it's funny because like I was up in the Netherlands and they go like I was there for a New Year's one year and it was traumatic.
Well, St. Berlin's famous for being like traumatically, dangerously fireworks heavy on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, and the thing is, if it was like for the one night, that's fine. But it was the 2 weeks leading up to it.
Oh, truly? In
Yeah.
Berlin, it's purely that day. Like
Oh.
maybe the day before,
That's
some
okay.
dicks might be doing a few,
Yeah,
but
no.
but like everywhere, like on every street, people will just be setting off fire. So it's like you don't know where they're coming from.
Yeah, no. I was
Yeah.
like, I was with it was with Carly, my partner, and we were dog sitting a dog, and I was.
Oh, the poor dog.
Well, the thing is, I was more scared than the dog after a while.
Oh shit! Really? Because dogs really don't like fireworks.
Dogs do not like fireworks. I think they were just happening all the time, and at some point, at like I remember 2:33 in the morning, like it was so loud, a car alarm went off, and I was just finally falling asleep, and it just kept happening. And I remember I was just lying in bed shaking. I was like, I can't. I was like, never put me in a war zone. I am a pussy.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
These are just fireworks. They can't hurt me. I'm just like, absolutely not.
Right. I'm not
I
like.
would not do well. I
Adam-
would not do well.
And like I'm okay with fireworks actually ish, but like Ish, but I'm not. Yeah, like like not prolonged periods. Like short periods, I can
Yeah.
handle it if
Yeah.
I'm psychologically prepared for it. But like in Edinburgh, I'm not sure if I've talked about this on the pod, but there was a point in Edinburgh one day where they had these like huge. I don't know. I didn't even see it, but a massive like fighter jet flew over. Where you know how like the sound is and like it shook the whole fucking city. I was terrified. I was like, Russia has come. Like that's exactly where my brain went immediately. It was like there is like shit is going down now. This would be a good target, you know, whatever. Like my first thought was Russia. Then I was like, it could be any number of fucking organizations. And there was an Australian standing right next to me, and he was just like, "When's the next one gonna come?" Like didn't have a single thought of fear enter his mind about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is this because I'm just like you know, it's very sensitive and maybe a little bit too close to like I felt very close to Ukraine when the war started because I have a lot of Ukrainian friends and I met a lot of Ukrainian refugees and Berlin is quite close.
It is.
To Russia.
Geographically, it's really not that far.
It's really not that far.
Really not that far.
No, and I was talking with my friends like exit strategies if we need to.
Yeah.
When and if and when
It can
Russia
happen.
comes. So the thing is, that was my reaction.
Yeah.
But you were saying your dad worked on an Air Force. You grew up on an Air Force.
Yeah, I grew up on an Air Force base. Yeah.
Air Force base. Yeah. So are you scared when you hear big planes, or is that just excitement?
No, I don't think I really care either way.
Okay.
I never cared that much about planes. Like there were a lot of F-18s that flew overhead, so the
maybe it was
military fighter jets.
Yeah.
And well, they were CF-18s because it was Canadian forces.
Okay.
Of course.
Important.
Just to be technical, in case my dad does listen to the podcast, he'll appreciate that.
He's proud of
He loves the planes, but he loves the plane. He's like a dog. Every time a plane shows up, he goes running to the window, takes a look out. We live close to an airport. It's so cute.
Yeah, that's adorable.
It is. It's lovely.
It's it's like human bird watching.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I mean, planes don't really freak me out too much. Okay. Obviously, I've been paying attention to what was going on and what is going on in Ukraine and what's happening with the Russian Federation over there.
The Russian Federation. Interesting.
Yeah. I'm listening to a podcast about this right now, so I'm trying to update my lingo.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
you call it Russian Federation as opposed to Russia.
Yeah. Well, so my basic understanding of it, thanks to Timothy Snyder and me listening to podcasts while I walk around. So admittedly, sometimes I'm a bit half distracted. But the general idea of it is that, well, if you start to call it Muscovy after Moscow, or you call it the Russian Federation, it indicates when you think of Russia, you just think of the Russian people. But when you look at Russia, it's composed of ethnicities from all different kinds of ethnicities. So just calling it Russia in that sense.
It can, that can be. That's the power of language that can really start creating some little neural pathways in your mind that aren't helpful for dealing with people.
It's very important as well. I think I think people are more aware of this as well, like talking about Kyiv instead of Kiev.
Yeah.
You know, the different spellings of it.
Yeah.
And how we think that they're harmless, but at the end of the day, they serve something in someone somehow. Like language does that very quietly, very passively, but so I'm trying to think about it. But it does feel, just saying it right now, I did feel like a loser saying the Russian Federation.
So I think it's no point. No, you visually I saw that you reacted to you saying that, so that's why I called it.
Yeah, because I was thinking about it. I'm like, how does this feel? It's the first time I've done this. It's like the first time you've done anything. You're like, I don't know if this is. Yeah, this feels strange.
Is this cool?
Is this, Am
I cool?
No, just getting a giant L on my forehead. Oh.
Did everyone notice?
I said it super smoothly, right? Like you didn't notice any hesitation in my voice.
Your face crumbled though. Your face crumbled. I was like,
started sweating again. I was like, oh no.
Oh shit.
Also because I was like, it is particular and I'm going to have to answer a question. I'm like, do I remember the details of the podcast? I don't, do I? I'm going to have to listen to that one again.
But you explained that really well. I think that's a really nice, I think that's a really good thing to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just hope it's accurate, yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds absolutely accurate. The government is referred to as the Russian Federation, right? So, or at least the governmental body that represents the state of Russia. Oh Jesus! Oh Jesus!
We're going down a wormhole here.
Have you been to Russia?
I have not, unfortunately. I would have gone years and years ago, but I didn't have a chance. In the lockdown, I was doing some online comedy. I performed on a comedy show in Moscow. This was in 2020. So I always thought like, oh, maybe when the pandemic lets up one day, if I could get a visa, I'd pop over there.
Yeah.
Even that comedy show, they shut down because they were like, we're done. We can't, because it was, obviously comedians don't really like to be censored, so.
Oh, dude, like the number of, I know so many Russian comedians now that have moved to Berlin because they got death threats.
Yeah.
And they had like the Russian intelligence come to their shows and.
Shit.
And so I'm good friends with quite a few Russian comedians who have had to escape, like have had to run away, basically.
Yeah.
And then there's all the Ukrainian comedians, of course, but like a very strong representation of Russian comedians are now based in Berlin.
Yeah. Interesting.
Very interesting. Like, so...
You gotta have somewhere to speak out against the regime, so...
Yeah, Berlin is a good place for it.
Yeah, but Germany's still a sketchy country, though. Its relations with Russia for years have been... I don't want this to get super political, but yeah.
Well, we're in a very political city, I've learned. So it's natural for it to go that way. I don't know shit about what Germany's relations with Russia are like.
Just traditionally, back in the day, if you looked like under the Soviet Union, of course, you had East Germany, which was, the DDR was very, very cozy with the Soviet Union.
It basically was the Soviet Union.
Yeah, I mean, it's communist as well.
Yeah.
But a lot of things that were, like a lot of sort of ways of shipping things across, getting across, they went through Germany. Also Austria. So it was very often Germany and Austria were like a bridge to the east.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of those relations, they continued to be pretty cozy, especially when Putin and his gang, who are from the KGB, they come back into power. So years later, as this is going on, some of these really old networks with old companies, different companies that have had these relations.
Absolutely, and there's still like the old like there was still for a long time, and still probably like still for a few people, and definitely passed down generationally, but like that old generation of, like it went sort of like the east of Germany is still considered like the Nazi, like the neo-Nazi or the Nazi base in Germany, and then those people were absolutely in the higher ranks of the DDR, like of East, like Soviet Germany, basically. And so there's like, those connections with like sort of Nazi companies, and that then like DDR, like those, it's still very, there's still problems there.
And even, I mean, you had the Nord Stream pipeline, which is the pipeline shipping in natural gas from Russia. Then they had the Nord Stream 2 project, and on the European level, the Germans were the ones who were pushing it. Maybe, I guess they're obviously, one of the most important countries in the EU, if not the most important country.
Yes, we are.
But they've been pushing. I like how you laugh after that. Like, aha!
Just me saying "we" is so funny.
But so they were pushing for this natural gas to come from Russia, even though for years Ukrainians and many others have been warning about exactly this kind of threat. Yeah. Like, it's also that context.
Problematic.
Yeah.
Problematic. I did hear during pandemic, Moscow was pretty liberal with like zero corona regulations, and apparently there were a lot of people that, well, from a few of the Russians that I know, like Moscow became a bit of like a fuck den. Like everyone was just like partying and going crazy in Moscow because it was one of the few places that you really could do that.
Oh yeah,
which is kind of cool. I've always wanted to go to Russia, but it's funny. Is the more you know politically, the more you're like, I'm still like, even now I'm not very interested, or let's say motivated, in going to the US anytime soon. Like I really want to wait until like politically it feels like some change needs. Like I will visit, and I've been to the US, but it's like as a society, like it's very problematic right now, and I feel that of course Russia. Scary.
The U.S. is it's a scary country to think about visiting.
Yeah, like I was talking.
It's scary.
It is, right? It is. Like I just published the episode with she's from Oakland.
Yeah,
that's a place.
Just gonna close the door.
Yeah, no problem. But yeah, I just published the episode with her. Her name's Angela Scrivani. She was just back there, and I was just talking like candidly. I'm like, I do not feel comfortable going to the States. I'm not motivated to go to the States anytime soon. Like, I would prefer to avoid being in that space because I am scared. You know, gun laws and just the way shit goes down. It's like, it's not like it's gang violence, which, meeting up with Quentin today, he was talking about like gang violence is apparently really increasing in Brussels.
Brussels, Antwerp, yeah.
Yeah.
As well, yeah.
Drugs. Pew, pew,
Yeah,
pew.
we got the port. We got the port in Antwerp, and a lot of drugs come in there.
I just gotta say, I'm open to doing some cocaine tonight. I want to test this fucking shit, man. Like, I hear it's good stuff here, but I also don't believe that.
Well,
I'm not that excited by coke, but like, you know, when in Rome, like, I'm not an Antwerp though. But
well, you got a full night ahead of you, so.
and quite a late plane tomorrow, so it's fine. But where was I going with this? But yeah, visiting places. Like, I'm it's cool to hear you say that as well, because Canada being so close to the US, it's like for you to be like, no, the US is scary right now. Like, I feel less bad.
Yeah, and I mean, some of that seeps into Canada as well.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the politics and everything, and even Europe, I think politically, it's also getting quite a bit scarier. I still don't think you have the same kind of citizen threat.
No.
Like, we don't have school shootings here.
No.
But, yeah, there's still a lot of the politics, the overarching, like, pretty racist, homophobic, sexist politics that are quite prevalent. They're like you were saying, even in East Germany, with a lot of the neo-Nazis that are kind of coming back to power.
Or even like the state like Poland, for example. It's like, Jesus fucking.
Oh yeah, very
like,
anti-democratic.
And like homophobic and anti-abortion. It's like, hold on, where are the women? Where is anyone's rights here?
Yeah. So yeah, Europe right now is also in a pretty sketchy place in a lot of regards. Depends where, but yeah, I don't know, something about the U.S. And I mean, I know it's not like you're just gonna walk around and get shot, but
no.
But for sure, the perceptions and understandings of the country, it's like, it is definitely like. Imagine raising a kid there. I couldn't imagine doing that.
No, dude, no way. I feel the same about Australia. Like, Australia doesn't have gun problems, and I just that's a very different topic. But we've only got like, let's say, like a few minutes, because then I gotta go out and meet a friend at 5:30. So it's been a packed day, Jesus. But okay, let's do that. Like any crazy kinky shit. Like, I don't know. There's lots of.
I like that. We're just jumping right into the kinky.
Yeah, I'm just like, let's go somewhere kinky. Like, maybe you're like, I don't know, and there's nothing. But like, does Brussels? I was gonna say Luxembourg. Does Brussels have any of like a kink scene or any like a? Is it more known for like a strong queer scene, or like what's the vibe here?
I'm very vanilla. Honestly, I'm quite vanilla. But I would say it's got it seems, based on my friends, it seems to have a pretty decent queer scene.
Okay, yeah.
This is, keep in mind, the place that during the lockdown there was a 25-man orgy. A member of the European Parliament who has also put forward homophobic legislation back in Hungary. He was caught escaping out of the window, getting down a drain pipe, and he had a bag of drugs in his backpack.
No!
And he was caught. This was in Brussels, and this was happening during the lockdown.
That is a wonderful story.
Oh, it's incredible. And it's very funny.
25, so we're talking like a
25
male
men.
Gay orgy?
Yes.
25 man orgy, and he's famous for putting forward homophobic legislation in Hungary.
Yeah.
What a cunt. Oh my God.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, I literally couldn't have, because I'm Canadian, and when I say that word, it just does not hit right.
Say it. Come on. Call me a cunt.
Don't make me do this. It's not right.
Who's someone that you hate? Say Hitler's a cunt.
I think you could start a podcast just trying to get like North Americans.
I need to hear you say it.
Just like, who do you think? Who is one? Come on.
Come on, say it.
The thing is, like, I do sometimes say the word, but it's usually like under my breath when nobody's around. You know, I will say it, but.
I think the key with saying the word cunt is like to say the T as little as possible. Like it's like if you can say it like an Aussie says it, then it's somehow friendlier and gentler. But like when North Americans will say it, it sounds so mean, right? Like cunt, like cunt, like it's like there's more.
It sounds like you're talking about a philosopher now.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't. In Australia, we would say can't.
Yes.
Even though it is can't. Yeah.
Okay, so I can give you one slightly spicy story.
Oh, yeah.
Which happened to me last year. I was out and about on the town with several friends.
Just drumming Canadian little catchphrases there. Okay, out and about.
I was ootin' a boot. New dude about it. I was rocking and rolling, just having a gay old time with my friends. So anyways,
in Brussels.
In Brussels.
Brussels, there we go, thank you.
Having a gay old time with my friends in Brussels.
Brussels?
We were by Brussels Central. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It was one of those nights that started off a soft night. Went to like a punk rock show and was just kind of like, oh, maybe we'll go to this bar for a beer. Mm-hmm. It's a bar where sometimes my friends are. So just showed up, saw a couple friends. So ended up continuing on with them. Went from one bar to another to another. Mm-hmm. It ends up being 7 in the morning, 7:30 in the morning. Mm-hmm. And me and one other friend of a friend who was there was still down to keep going, but the bar closed at like 8 in the morning. Mm-hmm. So we walk out onto the streets. Our other remaining friends are like, I'm done with this. Like, I'm going home.
Yeah.
Like reasonable human beings. But me and this other friend, we were like, want to keep going? Yeah, let's keep going.
Let's do it.
So we just walk out onto the streets and there's just a large group of people walking past. And we just start talking to them because it's 8 in the morning. You know, that's what you do.
Yep.
And we're just like, where are you guys going? They're like, oh, we're going to an after party. We're like, cool. So we just
Perfect.
So we just decided to join them. Like we just invited ourselves. We didn't really say anything. And it turns out that the girl I was with actually knew somebody in the group. So that's
okay.
So we get into
reassuring.
Yeah. I remember we get to the person's apartment and like as we go up the stairs, there's probably about 10 to 12 of us there. And I remember the guy whose apartment it was, he just looks at us and just goes like, okay, we got to be really quiet while we're walking up the stairs. Like, don't speak. So he was like, yeah, sure. But we still sounded like fucking elephants. Just like,
of course.
We get in there. And then like, I guess maybe 5 or 10 minutes in, I noticed that people were like starting to take their clothes off and...
No way. This was like no one said anything.
Yeah, nobody said anything.
Wow.
Well, because they didn't know that we didn't know, right? Like, I think it was one of those.
Okay.
So they start taking their clothes off, and people are starting to like make out, and suddenly somebody's like sucking somebody else's dick, and then I walk into another room, and there's a woman who's being like eaten out by one guy, and another guy's above her playing with her tits, and it's all just like. And I was like, oh shit, we stumbled into like an after sex party.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
So like you fucked everyone.
I did not.
Did you?
I sat back and chilled.
You stayed in there and you stayed. Yes.
I should have left. Probably.
Why?
Well, I might have upset Carly a little bit.
Oh, you were with Carly?
No, yeah, we were together, but like but she wasn't there at the night. But
okay.
So it's a little, maybe
a little bit on the.
But the thing was, people were like offering. But it's like the cool thing about being at that sex party was just like everybody was just so like down with consent. Somebody's like, "Hey, would you like to fuck me?" Mm-hmm. No, thanks. Okay, cool.
That's amazing.
And I was like, "Nice. That's what I like."
You went to a really nice sex, like a really random, nice,
welcoming
sex
And
party.
I just chatted with people for a while. I was just having chats with people there, and I talked to one young woman, and I was like, she's like, how did you end up here? And I was like, oh yeah, I just met you on the street. And she's like, oh, so you weren't at the sex party? And I was like, no. And she was like, oh, well, it's cool. You're nice. I'm like, thanks.
You could have been anyone.
Could have been, but you know, we were chill. We were chill, right? Like we were just chill.
I just joined you on the street.
Yeah. And you can see this moment of like, that's weird, but also, yeah, you guys are cool, so it's all right. Because like they really thought that we were just with them the entire time, but you know, it's like you probably first met most of these people that night, and you're just off on an adventure. You know how it is, like a night out on the town, and suddenly there's just 2 more people there, and you're like, oh, all right, cool. You must know this person, or you know.
That specific moment is just hilarious. Just
it's great.
How you would have felt like, oh no, like, no, I just met you on the street, like it just. Yeah, like, because you could have been ejected at that point very quickly. Like, it
Yeah,
could have
yeah.
been like, what are you doing in here? We don't know you.
Yeah.
But,
Well, I think it helped that the host wanted to bang me.
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Or
yeah.
He wanted to do something with me. I don't know what, but yeah.
But it had to have you there, at
Yeah.
least. He wanted you to see things.
Yeah, but yeah. So I asked her as well. It was quite an interesting conversation because I was like, oh, is this like have you done this before? And she's like, oh, this is my second time.
Okay.
I was like, what was it like? She's like, well, the first time I was scared. I kind of just sat back and watched and chilled out. I was like, what about this time? She's like, oh, I dove in.
Yeah.
I was like, how is it? And she was like smiling. She's like, amazing, just awesome. Like she was loving it.
It's a lot of fun. Like,
Yeah.
I have been to quite a few, and yeah, it's. I think it's something very healthy for humans to see group sex and to be in that environment.
Yeah.
I think it's. I think it changes your comfort with your body, your comfort with sex, increases your understanding of consent, and yeah, I think it's a really healthy human activity. I don't think it's like insane. I think it's very healthy.
Yeah, it was. That's the thing, right? Because it was one of those, like, I would have left if I felt uncomfortable or weird or anything. The reason that I stayed was because I was just like,
You're almost about to come, you know.
exactly. I was just masturbating on the couch, and I was like, this is fine. Nobody minds. But no, it felt so calm and relaxing, and so it, like just chill. Like nobody was. No, like nobody was pressed. Nobody felt disturbed. I didn't feel disturbed. I didn't feel pressured or anything. And it was also very funny because at some point, like, it was time to leave. Like, it got to like 10 in the morning, and the woman that I came with, she was like, all right, I need to leave, but I was like, let's just take a tram because she lived in the same neighborhood as me.
Yep.
She's like, I don't take trams.
Okay.
She's like, but I'm gonna order thing, and then she had to get her I don't know, it was an iPad or whatever out.
Okay.
She needed the Wi-Fi, so she had to go into the room where the owner was like, you know, whipping somebody and was like, hey, do you have the Wi-Fi password?
That is the best question to ask at an orgy.
Yeah.
Like, sorry.
Anybody have the Wi-Fi?
Just show me where the modem is. It's fine. Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah, I remember, and I was just sitting back laughing because she really struggled. First of all, the app wasn't working very well. Finally, she calls it. She's waiting around for 10 minutes, and she's like, oh, no, I called it to my house.
Oh god. Okay, you guys have been drinking all night.
Yeah.
Fuck. That's a great story. We've got to wrap it up. That was so
All
good.
right.
Otherwise, I'd be sharing stuff about my filthy past. But fuck yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's a very cool story.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's a fun one.
And like a really positive experience of like an after sex party.
Yeah, it was a very, very cool thing, and I kept seeing like one of the guys from it at events afterwards because we listened to the same music.
Oh, that's
and he's
hilarious.
like, so it's cool. I can see that us two were into the same thing, and I still didn't have the heart to tell him. Like, I just showed up at that party. Dude.
Yeah, like that was just me following a group of people to another venue. Really,
I haven't told him, poor guy.
He just thinks you're some perv that doesn't want to fuck with him anymore. Like you've got your own like community of sex parties, and you're blocking him out of it.
Exactly.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
Thanks so much for having me on, and
dude,
actually, thank you
pleasure.
so much for coming out to Brussels. Amazing to have you at Anglo-idiosyncracies.
Oh, it was so nice.
I'd love to have you back.
I will so happily come back. I love being
Amazing.
here. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Where can people find you?
So of course, mainly Instagram.
Yep.
I'm an Insta ho. If that's
There's a jazz in your handle. What is it?
Trizcom.
Triz, sorry.
TRIZZ. Jazz Triz. Jizz Traz.
Jizz Traz.
Jizz Traz. That's my Trizcom on Instagram is the main place that you'll find me.
Jazz. Jizzcom, like there's a lot of potential there. Okay, cool guys.
Yes.
That's been out. So come to Brussels, come to these shows.
Come hang out. Come watch shows.
Find-
We got lots of comedy, new scene, fun stuff.
Exactly. Lovely people.
Up and coming.
Good sex parties. If you stumble into the right one.
Even if you're just watching.
And need the Wi-Fi.
Solid 8 out of 10. Yeah, the Wi-Fi, you try to get it when you walk in just in case.
Oh my god, so
Advice
good.
to the wise.
All right, guys, it's been a pleasure. That's been Adults Only Comedy Berlin. Thank you so much. Berlin and Brussels. Thank you so much and goodbye.
Bye.